All right, ladies and gentlemen, who will be Donald Trump's Commerce Secretary? One of their names being bandied about, Wilbur Ross, founder of W.L. Ross & Company, and economic advisor to the Trump presidential campaign. Now, yesterday, I was able to sit down right here in studio with Mr. Ross. And as you'll see here, the first thing I tried to get out of him was, are you a candidate for this? Do you want it? Are you going to take it? Will you accept it? And here's how it all went. It is a pleasure, sir.
Good to see you.
Thank you very much. And I'd be remiss if I did not also say that your name has come up as one of the, if not the top contender to be Donald Trump's Commerce Secretary. So let me ask you, have you had talks along those lines? And would you be interested if the President-elect offers it to you?
That's about the 800th time I've been
sure.
asked that in recent days. Coming here is not about a job interview. I'd rather talk about policy issues.
I understand, but I'd be remiss if I have had those conversations. And again, if the President-elect were to ask you, would you be interested in serving?
I deal in practicalities, not hypotheticals.
Okay, so it's impractical at this point?
It's impractical for me to answer at this point.
Okay, all right, fair enough, fair enough. So let me ask you about the, you know, we've seen the stock market election night.
Right.
The futures went down 800 points.
Yeah, but futures are very thinly traded.
Yeah, absolutely, and everybody panicked, and oh my God, but now it appears to be the Trump bounce. Are you surprised by that?
No. On some of the shows that I did right before the election, I forecast that the correct thing for the market to do if Mrs. Clinton had won would be to go down because her program would be terrible for the economy, and the correct thing to do if Donald Trump won would be for the market to go up. So I feel a little bit vindicated.
There were certain sectors that we've seen all kinds of crazy stuff. We saw the tech sector, the big names there, go down for 7 days in a row. Now the last couple of days or so, they've gone up a little bit. We saw the banks, obviously, the financial sector, deregulation, raising interest rates, go way up. Can we expect to see any kind of trends developing or continuing in your view from here?
Well, I think in general, the Trump tax program, assuming we get it through the Congress, is very good for corporate investors. Why? Cutting the maximum tax rate from 35% to 15% gives those companies an immediate 30% boost in post-tax earnings. How many holdings in anybody's portfolio get a 30% earnings jump in a year? That's huge. In addition, the ability to write off capital expenditures, including software, immediately, if you're not a highly leveraged company, is a wonderful thing. That should help to answer the questions about productivity. And lack of productivity growth has been one of the big problems, holding back wage growth and holding back the expansion of the economy.
You mentioned if you could get the programs through Congress. With the Republican Congress, I mean, of course, I mean, do you anticipate any problems, any pushback, any conflict with the Ryan McConnell agenda, if you will?
Well, the president-elect's tax plan is very, very similar to the one that Speaker Ryan and the House Republicans put together. So in general, I don't think it will be a problem. But whenever you get into tax legislation, you have 8,000 lobbyists, 8,000 vested interests going to come poking around, and they undoubtedly will try to torture the bill some to capture a bit of advantage for themselves.
On trade, that could be problematic in some aspects. Although the president of Mexico, from what I hear, has already said to Donald Trump, or has said to the media, that he's willing to renegotiate certain aspects of NAFTA, a far cry from, you know, shunning and saying, get away from me, I don't want to talk to you. So do you think that that a President Trump will be able to look at trade deal by trade deal and renegotiate them, or throw out what's not what he doesn't believe is beneficial to the country?
Absolutely. What's been missing in trade deals historically is a misperception of our position. We are the world's largest consumer. The world, other than the U.S., is a net exporter of $500 billion a year. We're the net importer of $500 billion. We absorb the entire trade surplus of the rest of the world. If you're the world's largest customer, you need to treat your supplier countries the same way a big corporation would treat its suppliers, namely play them off against each other and make more advantageous arrangements.
You you hear about China flexing their muscles and threatening this or threatening that, kind of a trade war of sorts. Do you have any fears about how China might respond if we, act in our interests?
We're already in a trade war. We've been in a trade war for quite a while, but our troops have not manned the ramparts until now. It's been an invasion against the paper soldiers. That will change.
And for the better. So let me ask you. Your company is well known for restructuring failed companies.
Right.
So it seems to me that you'd be you and Donald Trump working together to restructure a lot of the failures in the economic system here. If you were Commerce Secretary, or if you were advising the next Commerce Secretary, what's one of the first things that you would advise Donald Trump to do and that you would look to do?
Well, we have to change the culture of all of the government departments. They've got to become a pro-business culture. They're not right now and haven't been for quite a little while. So it's very, very important to make the culture change, because one thing changed the people at the top. It's the sergeants who run the army, not just the generals. So we have to make a culture change in the administration.
If you are selected and confirmed as Commerce Secretary, will you promise you will come back on my show?
Chris Ruddy is my friend. I'll come back on your show.
Great to see you, sir.
Good
Thank you very, very much. Well, as you could see, it was a pleasure having him in studio, obviously. And there's a special, gravitas that goes along with the fact that he certainly might be the next Commerce Secretary. Of course, there's plenty of gravitas attached to Wilbur Ross anyway, but knowing that man could go on to have such a major role in the administration, it adds something, certainly as someone who's sitting here and interviewing him. But he wasn't talking. I mean, if I had a guess, I would say, just based on the look in his eye, just based on how he responded, just based on how he didn't respond, I would say he absolutely believes he's under consideration. He absolutely believes that it's either between him and one other person, or it's him and he knows it's him, as opposed to no way, it ain't happening. So that's just my guess. Will it happen? I don't know. I cannot I cannot answer that. But it's interesting because his wildly successful business, as I mentioned to him during the course of the interview, involves taking companies that aren't doing so well and turning them around. And he's done such a wonderful job throughout his career with that. And to have someone like that in that position under Donald Trump, who also, of course, is a businessman who knows how to make things happen, I think it's very, very exciting. We're at a very exciting place. Folks, sometimes, can I pinch myself? Hillary lost. I just like saying that. I just find it so. Hillary, well, not only did Donald Trump win, but Hillary Clinton lost. I mean, unless she's, indicted or under speaking to a grand jury. I know she spoke yesterday at the Children's Defense Fund. By the way, I don't want to say, she looked awful. To me, she looked like somebody who had been crying for 2 days and just came out in public. Awful, in my opinion. That's my opinion. I'm not saying that to, be a gratuitous slam at her. I'm just saying she looked awful, as you might say about anybody. Anyway, all right. But Hillary lost, Donald Trump won. Up next, Give Me 5, plus a special report from Bill Tucker. Don't miss it.